All right, hi. So I am going to work again. I shall turn the camera around. Someone suggested I must use landscape, so here we are. Um, we do have people eating in KFC, and while you're eating, obviously you can't wear a mask. But you can see things are returning very much to life. Yesterday I saw a tricycle with a bunch of flowers. I guess the guy was transporting. Oh, hola, señor Puente. Um, so people, you can see like everybody outside is still wearing a mask, regardless of whether they're wearing it correctly. At least they're aware. And Haiti is was this a Haiti Go? So that's a Haiti without place to sit, I guess. It's just a pickup. It's finally getting sunny and no longer cold. When in Shanghai, you get what, a month of nice weather in, well, maybe a month and a half of nice weather, late March until beginning of May, and then it's too hot. It remains too hot until October, and then you get a month of nice weather, and you're in November, and it becomes too cold again. Yeah, so delivery men, they were working even during the peak of the situation, and they all had all this kind of disinfection, and they had that temperature measure. And see, we get a guy without a mask. Well, he actually does. He just have it under his chin, which protects, I guess, his chin. So yesterday I saw some guy on Facebook sent me a newsletter, not a newsletter, a news article talking about what happened in Netherlands. So apparently in the Netherlands they were for some reason, like, they were so keen on weed. So since the authorities announced that they were going to close the coffee shops, which is where you get weed, they suddenly all queued up, and they were basically packed. So I'm like, yeah, that is very helpful. I mean, people in the West are just not taking this seriously. I still have comments saying, oh, it's just another coronavirus. I mean, it's not, because you can observe the increased death. You don't, I mean, most of common cold or flu is usually caused by some kind of coronavirus. Yes, we live with a lot of them, but you don't observe a sudden surge in the number of dead. You don't run short on crematoria. Your hospitals don't work 24/7, and you don't send in doctors from all over the country to support just a single province, not even a single province, really a single city. So I just think that it's just not true. It's not just media hysteria. Media hysteria does not send multiple countries in this world into some kind of lockdown. You can say, oh, governments are stupid and all that, but no, they might not be super competent, but they're just probably as competent as most of everybody else. It's just normal people running the government. They are incompetent as we are, and they are competent in the ways we are. So Senor Puente says, I read somewhere that people are catching it again. Well, it is what I've noticed quite a while ago. There was a Japanese woman who presumably was cured of her disease on the 2nd or 1st of February, and then was retested positive in the middle of February. So there are a bunch of those cases in China as well. Two things I observed out of those. First, it could be the case that they just haven't fully recovered. So they still have residual virus in their bodies. They could very well be fully covered in antibodies, which means they're inactive and wouldn't cause any infection. So, or they just have very low transmittivity. They're just not very infectious, basically. So these happen in Wuhan as well, and but in Wuhan there's another explanation, because it becomes more than just actually curing the patient. It becomes a benchmark on how you get measured, and when that is the case, the numbers will be fake. And how you fake it? You send people out even though they haven't fully recovered, and then what happens is you notice they still have virus in their bodies. But I personally don't worry too much, because I haven't heard anything from that Japanese woman who's in her 60s or 70s that was retested positive. So yeah, so that's I wouldn't worry too much about that. And the other things that I read was in Belgium, they had lockdown party. So people went out to have the final drink before the bars would close for the night. And I'm like, the whole point is that you don't gather, and now you do. It's still just the same. The attitude is just too sanguine, I would say. So it certainly doesn't help. And in terms of the markets, Friday, Trump announced that we entered a national emergency, and for some reason, the announcement of national emergency and the funds available to combat this virus, which isn't actually that much to begin with, sent the market up, like limit up. I've never seen a limit up in US, but that apparently happened. So the market was limit up on Friday. Now it's limit down. At least the futures limit down. And that's despite the Fed lowering rate down to 0 and announcing some ridiculously large QE program. So yeah, I don't think any of this bode particularly well. Also, during the weekend, the market will have more time to brew over the increased case counts. Italy doesn't show any signs of slowing down. So the daily increase is, from what I observe, is between 10 and 20% once things kind of stabilize. Well, if it's 20%, then you get a 4-day doubling time. If it's 10, then it's a 7-day doubling time. If it's like 15, then it's 5 days. Right, so imagine if we double every 5 days. It doesn't take very. I mean, give it just 1 month, so 6 days. Well, 2 to the 6. So 6 cycles, right? 2 to the 6 is 64. So within a month, you will get 64 times the patients. And I'm walking the wrong way. I should go to Luckin and pick up my coffee at very low prices. So yeah, so for the weekend, US with its base of what, 3,000 would gain about 25% ish. So that would be another 600, 700 patients. So yeah, 750 ish. So US should approach 5,000. I don't know what we are now, but US should approach 5,000 before market open on Monday. And give it another week, it would be 10,000 plus. And that's where we are. And there's no stopping it at the moment because people are just not taking it seriously. No masks as far as I hear, and no social distancing. And people still regard you as a weirdo if you try to protect yourself. So I guess these things we just have to wait until shit hits the fan and deal with the consequences, which I'm sure we'll be able to deal with. We always get through, and this thing is not super deadly. It's what, under 10% if you're relatively young, and quite a bit above 10% if you're old. I saw a distribution graph where they show if you're under like 30, you have like 0.3% chance of dying, which is still very high. I would not want to risk 0.3% chance of dying unnecessarily. I mean, if that makes me $10 billion, I'll consider it. But what are these guys risking it for? Having a drink at the bar at the last day? What the fuck? Anyways, this is what, 2:20 p.m. in Shanghai. My company is still working from home 3 days out of 5. So the employees would be there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I did all the meeting this morning. I'm now walking towards my office and picking up the coffee on the way. I hope you all stay safe and prepare for the lockdown and the carnage on the market. Bye.